All right, we are plowing ahead, and now we are taking a look at the defense. What can the 2019 Seattle Seahawks do to improve their defense? This is the side of the ball that's a little more interesting to me because I feel like there's more. The ceiling is higher with the defense with the way this team's coaching staff is made up than it is with the offense. So this is the side of the ball that could become one of the best in the league, I think. But we're a long way away from that. So we're going to take a look at defensive ends first, just like I did with the guards and the right tackles. Before I get into this, I do want to address real quick because not everybody's going to agree with me with my assessment of the offense. I said wide receiver was not a need. I really don't think it is, but I know a lot of people don't agree with that. The team might not agree with that. The team has brought in Jordy Nelson to take a look at him, see if they want to bring him in for probably a one-year deal. He got cut by the Raiders. He's been a good receiver in the league for a long time. So we're taking a look at him. Maybe we sign him. I don't really want him. If you do, that's great. But to me, Jordy Nelson is at the stage of his career where, quite frankly, I don't think he has very much left. I don't think that he'll be appreciably better than Jerron Brown would be next year, or even David Moore, or even a guy like Keenan Reynolds. How much are we gaining if we have Jordy Nelson instead of one of those guys? I don't think very much. Maybe not anything. Maybe it's another Brandon Marshall situation where after 2 games we're done with him, we move on, we find out the young guy was better all along. Not that David Moore was amazing last year, but we should have been giving him those reps instead of the Brandon Marshall reps, if we're being straight honest. So I don't want a wide receiver. The way I see it, we already don't throw the ball to our receivers enough. Tyler Lockett averages like 7 targets a game, maybe 8. It should be 15 because that's how good he is. And, good things happen constantly whenever we throw the ball to him. And we don't throw the ball to him hardly until sometimes it feels like the fourth quarter. So that's the problem with wide receiver on this team. It's got nothing to do with getting another veteran in here. I'm not interested in Jordy. So if we sign him, hooray, but I'm not really going to be excited about it. So wide receiver spot is fine in my mind. So defensive end, we're going to do it like we always do it. We're going to look at the free agents and, in case you guys haven't figured out by now, free agency is kind of where you go when you fucked up and you need to bolster your roster a little bit to make up for the fact that you didn't draft that well. So you don't get perfect situations when you go into free agency. I'm going to list 4 guys here that I think the Seahawks should consider going after. None of it's perfect at all. The same for the other free agents I suggested, like TJ Lang or Donald Penn, those guys. It's not perfect. But that's what you have to settle for when you go into free agency most of the time. Sometimes you get Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett, but that's rare. So unless you want to go for a Jadeveon Clowney, and I obviously don't even have him listed here because forget it, we'd have to give up. I don't even know how much to go get Clowney. I would love to. I think Clowney would solve a lot of our problems, but it ain't going to happen. So Clowney being out of the question, DeMarcus Lawrence being out of the question. Here are 4 guys in free agency that caught my eye. I think they could help this team this year potentially. We should at least kick the tires. The most interesting guy to me by far is Ezekiel Ansah. He has been a Detroit Lion for several years now. He's been a very talented, very capable end. He can rush the passer. He's clearly capable of putting pressure on a quarterback, which is what we need. When we are trying to figure out what we do at defensive end, that's the priority. We need to get after the quarterback. Last year we did it some, but we didn't do it enough. One man is not going to be able to provide a pass rush from snap to snap by himself, and that's kind of what we have right now, it feels like. So we need pass rushers. Ezekiel Ansah can rush the passer. He's turning 30 this year. I think that he would take a 1-year prove-it deal because he's been injured a lot. That's part of the reason why he's available. Now, he could easily come here and be injured here too, and he won't be able to prove anything, and he won't play, and he won't be that effective when he does play. So, these are the risks that you have to accept when you go into free agency. So I just kind of off the top of my head penciled in 1 year, 9 million, because he hasn't done a lot lately. We know he's good, but he can't stay healthy. So Ezekiel Anza is probably the guy most likely who we could bring in, and he could immediately help the pass rush in 2019, but it would cost a little something. Hopefully nothing long term, though. Maybe it's a 2-year deal, kind of like what Clay Matthews got from the Rams, but hopefully he would take the 1-year prove-it deal. Next name on the list, Derek Morgan, kind of the same deal as Anza. Only thing I don't love is that Derek Morgan has been playing outside linebacker for the Titans for the last 4 years because they've been playing the 3-4. But Derek Morgan has played defensive end for Tennessee before, so it's not like it would be completely foreign to him. He's coming off a year where he was playing hurt all season. He had no sacks last year. I think he had a half a sack last year because he just wasn't healthy and he was never able to really get it going. But he's had, 8 sack seasons, 9 sack seasons, I think, before. So he can get after the quarterback. After what he did last year, he would definitely take a 1-year prove-it deal. I wrote down 1 year, 9 million. It could be 8. I don't know exactly. Pass rushers are valuable, but he's got a lot to prove because he didn't do very much of anything last year rushing the passer. Next name, Nick Perry. The Packers cut him because they got a couple of new ends. And he's another guy. He played outside linebacker mostly. So I'm not crazy about the prospect of bringing him in and moving him to defensive end full time, but he's like entering his 30s, I think. So he's not that old, but he's not young. He's never been a double-digit sack guy. He's never been a dominant pass rusher, but he's done some pretty good things. I put down 1 year, 7.5 million. Again, these are just estimates based off of what I see in the market. I don't view Nick Perry as a great pass rusher, so I'm not that excited about that one, but worth mentioning. And then the last name I wrote is Vinny Curry. He's a free agent off the Buccaneers. He was an Eagle for a long time. He had some good years in Philadelphia, and he's been a very good pass rusher for most of the years of his career. He's always been good against the run, which is interesting, even though it's not necessarily what I desire from this position. It's still important. And basically, we would just be betting on the fact that he can bounce back after having a not so great 2018 because he didn't do that much last year. And, I think we could probably get him for 1 year, 6 million, I guess, because he would need to take a prove-it deal because he hasn't really proved that much in the most recent NFL season. He looks like he could be washed up, and you have to keep those guys on short-term deals or else you regret it later. So those are the 4 free agents that I think we could bring in to bolster the pass rush immediately, because that's what we're talking about, the 2019 Seahawks. If you don't like these guys, there are a lot of other options. I was looking at the list of defensive ends that were still free agents. There are a lot of names, but if you don't like any of this, you were talking guys like Randy Gregory, and I don't want to fuck with that. I don't want to mess around with Randy Gregory, bring him in, and 3 days later he's suspended for the season because, he does what Randy Gregory does. So pass on that. Bring in a veteran who has proven he's been good before on a 1 year prove-it deal. Or let's look to the draft. I think there's a very good chance that we use our first draft pick this year on a defensive end because it's the most obvious position of need right now. It is the most obvious immediate need. So if we bring in a high-profile rookie, wouldn't surprise me. So like I said, we all know we are trading out of the first round. We're going to be picking early, middle, maybe even late in the second round. So forget the first round guys. And obviously forget the guys like the Nick Bosa's, the Bosa brother. Not happening. I love it, but I think Bosa's going in the top 3. So unless you want to trade all of our picks this year and next year, forget about it. Here are the names that I think we could get that caught my eye. All these guys have caveats, though. It's got to be said. Or at least, none of this stuff is perfect. I mean, Jalen Ferguson out of Louisiana Tech, sack artist in college. He had like 44 over the course of 4 years. He had 15 sack seasons twice. I think he had one 17 sack season. So he got to the quarterback and brought him down. The other side of that is his pro day sucked. He was a disaster at the pro day. In fact, according to stuff I saw, his 3-cone times and his 40 times were some of the worst ever by a defensive end. In fact, I think his 3-cone was the worst that any defensive end has ever posted in their pro day. So that's a red flag. Maybe he's sick, maybe he's just out of shape for one reason or another, but that has to be a red flag. I like the production in college, but he's got to answer for those horrible results, because if if his sack numbers are just because he played for a team like Louisiana Tech, then what's he going to do in the NFL when he can't get around these tackles because he's moving like a tugboat? All right, so big red flag there. LJ Collier, Texas Horned Frog guy, doesn't seem like he's a big time pass rusher. Seems like he's more of a decent all around defensive end. His pro day, his combine, I mean, was fine, but he doesn't seem like he's ever going to be a big time pass rusher. He did not put up big sack numbers in college. He was a very good player in college, and it's possible that in the pros he could reshape his game. I understand that does happen sometimes, but LJ Collier seems like he's going to be a good player in the NFL. I'm not really believing that he can give us the pass rush that we need, not in his rookie season and maybe not ever, so I'm not crazy about that one. I'm actually a little more interested in these two guys, because these two guys, Zach Allen and Oshane Ximines, could go at the bottom of the second round. Now, if Jalen Ferguson's pro day is any indication, he might go in the bottom of the second round, bottom of the third round. Who the hell knows? But he's dropping like a rock. But Zach Allen out of Boston College, the stuff I read about him when I was briefly going over his profiles, they like his motor, they like his energy. He's got freakishly big size. He's like 6'5", 280 or something. He's productive in college. He wasn't a sack artist. It's not like he was getting 20 sacks a year, but he was getting sacks. And to me, Zach Allen might be the most intriguing defensive end prospect for me. And unless he moves up in the next month because guys like Jalen Ferguson fall down, he might be available late in the second. So Zach Allen, Boston College, that's the defensive end that catches my eye the most. He's a physical freak. He's a physical specimen. And it seems like he can get after the quarterback. The last name, bit of a tricky one here, Oshane Ximines out of Old Dominion. Now, I know it's a bit of a red flag that he played for a college like Old Dominion, but hey, DeMarcus Ware played for Troy. Osi Umenyiora played for Troy. And this guy in college, he was quick, he was fast, he had a lot of sacks. I think he had over 40 sacks in his 4-year college career. So it seems like he knows how to get to the quarterback. It seems like he has pro-like measurables. And like I said, right now projected around the bottom end of the second round. So I really like these last two guys. If we got one of those two guys, I would be really excited. These two guys, they're more highly regarded as prospects, but the red flags to me are kind of, pulsing, It just seems like there might be something not totally there. But that's what I see at the defensive end spot. There are still a lot of guys we could get in free agency. I think we need one because, look, after Frank Clark, how much faith do you have in Rasheem Green to be a breakout star this year? How much faith do you have in Jacob Martin to be a practice star, practice squad to, Pro Bowl guy? I don't have very much. I like Rasheem Green, but I don't want to bet too much on him. I don't think we're bringing Deion Jordan back, and even if we do, he's not that good. So this is what I'm really looking at. This is what I really want. I would love to bring in a veteran and have him prove the haters wrong, the doubters wrong. Would love to bring in one of these rookies. These are the 4 rookies that I feel like are realistic. And if we can figure out a way to improve the defensive end spot, I think the sky could be the limit for the 2019 Seahawks. But as it stands right now, I don't think we can get to the quarterback enough to win enough games to really do damage. All right, that's our look at defensive ends. There's no more need to talk about linebackers because we're set there now because we re-signed some guys. So basically, next video, we're going to be talking about the cornerback spot because we now have a need there. Then we're going to talk about safety. We might talk about return man. And then we'll let it rest. Maybe I'll make some more videos about the draft as that gets closer. But we're close, guys. We're close. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks.